And good evening, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Joe Fitzwater. We do have a severe thunderstorm that is pushing into portions of our region that is capable of producing a tornado. So we have a tornado warning for portions of Clay and extreme northwestern Nicholas County. Now, thankfully, this is some pretty rural area, but this is approaching portions of Nicholas County. So areas in Summersville, for example, and along Route 19, we'll be watching this storm closely here over the next half hour or so to see if it can maintain its strength. Now, the good news so far this afternoon is that the storms that have shown signs of rotation like this one have generally had these areas of rotation not last very long. But nonetheless, this is a tornado warning for portions of Clay County as well as northwestern Nicholas County here in our region. So we'll take a look at this here. And essentially, this is a thunderstorm that is showing a lot of signs of rotation and continues to scoot down to the south and east. So this is not in our region just yet, but it will be moving into our region here momentarily. And so again, as a result, the National Weather Service has gone ahead and issued a tornado warning until 7:45. So we put this into motion. And again, as with many thunderstorms here this afternoon, they kind of get some juice, some instability going, and the amount of wind shear, the amount of natural rotation we're seeing here at the low levels has been quite impressive here this afternoon. And so you get a little extra juice going with some of these storms, and it enables them to spin. And so that's why the National Weather Service has gone ahead and issued a tornado warning for this cell. Again, this is not in our region just yet, but it is going to be moving into our region here momentarily. And so as a result, that's why we're cutting in here. And so again, this is going to be eventually pushing over toward the Summersville area over the next hour or so. Hopefully we'll see some weakening take place with this storm as it continues to scoot down to the south and to the east. But we look at what's going on right now. It is pretty quiet in Nicholas County, so that's certainly some good news. Let's take the warning off here just for a moment because we don't really need to see that here at this point. But again, scattered showers and thunderstorms have been prevalent across the region here this afternoon, and they have produced a lot of heavy rainfall as a result. And we'll take a look at that here in a moment. But again, the reason we're cutting in is for this thunderstorm that is, again, continuing to push down to the south and east. What are some areas that are potentially impacted by this storm? That would be right now across portions of Clay County. So this would be along toward Bickmore, over there toward Holcomb Hill there, for example, over toward Fola, farther down to the south toward Indore and Lismore's, those areas scooting down to the south and east. But eventually this moves into the 20 Mile Creek area of Nicholas County. So this is a pretty rural portion of Nicholas County that we're talking about. No big areas as far as towns, for example. Summersville, of course, all the way off to the east. Now, if this thunderstorm does hold together, it would have the potential to start encroaching on that Route 19 corridor here over the next bit. And so that would be something that we'll have to be wary of. Now, we take a look at some different areas, though, here in our region. Let's zoom out for just a bit and kind of take a wider perspective. And again, we have the severe thunderstorm watch until 9 p.m. for Greenbrier as well as Summers and Monroe counties. That's for the areas in pink. But we do have a lot of scattered showers and thunderstorms that we are seeing across the region here right now. These have been producing some very heavy rainfall at times here over the last couple of hours. And so, again, some isolated instances of flooding can't be ruled out here as we work our way through this evening. In fact, we look at some of these rainfall totals over the last 3 hours where you see the dark blues, that's where, or dark greens, that's where we've seen over an inch of rain. So, for example, portions of Summers County, we've been seeing around an inch and a half of rain. That's enough to at least cause some low-lying issues here this afternoon as a result of these thunderstorms that continue to push their way through. But again, we zoom back out and kind of show you a wider perspective, and we'll zoom back in a bit here in just a little bit. But again, scattered showers and thunderstorms continuing to push through the region. And again, that tornado warning up in northwestern parts of Nicholas County. That guy right there, this particular storm, and that's part of a pretty decent little complex of thunderstorms crossing I-79, and that is going to push into northern parts of Nicholas County here over the next half hour to 45 minutes. Elsewhere, we're seeing some pretty strong storms across portions of Greenbrier County. Now, for that particular area, I'm going to switch the radar location to the Blacksburg radar since that's a little bit closer. And you'll notice some pretty heavy downpours. Let's zoom on in with these storms across parts of Greenbrier and Monroe counties, man, it is raining like cats and dogs north of Union. So we're talking about over into portions of Greenbrier County as well. These are the same areas that had that strong thunderstorm earlier this afternoon. So, for example, this would be an area that could be prone to some low-lying issues when it comes to flash flooding as a result, with multiple rounds of showers and thunderstorms that have taken place. A little farther down to the south and west into portions of Summers County. So this is south of Hinton. This is over there toward True Mountain, getting down toward Bozu, for example, down toward Barger Springs, there along the Greenbrier River, for example, and down toward the Bluestone. We're seeing some very heavy rain that's taking place here this afternoon. And scattered showers and thunderstorms going to continue to be a good bet here over the next half hour to 45 minutes. Now, farther up to the north toward Hinton, things have quieted down. So you get over toward Talcott, for example. Again, we had those heavy downpours across the Greenbrier River earlier. Those have scooted out of those areas, which is certainly some good news. We get farther back to the west toward portions of Wyoming and western Raleigh counties. Again, another area that has seen some very heavy rain this afternoon and seeing more of it here taking shape. So again, we'll have to watch that closely. And then again, we'll have to switch the radar back over here as we head toward our western counties, getting into portions of Logan County. Again, we have to watch these areas where we see those little hooks there. That's where that low-level rotation starts to pick up. And so these storms have to be something to respect here over the next hour or two as the risk for severe weather continues, at least over the next hour. Let's say toward about 9 o'clock or so, we should start to really see this stuff begin to shut down, at least in terms of that severe weather threat. So why are we seeing the severe weather? It has to do with an area of low pressure that's just up to our north now. Now, the good news is this low is scooting away from us, so that's going to take away this rotation, this natural rotation. Why do we see that when the low pressure system is so close? Well, for one thing, we're on the unstable side of the sector of this system. So warm front has lifted up to the north, and that opens the Gulf to giving us a nice moist flow. It also warms us up. So we see the heat, we see the humidity. You know how it is in Appalachia this time of year. You get those two things. We usually see at least some form of thunderstorms. But this area of low pressure creates a lot of different change in wind direction with height, especially down low at the surface. So we call that helicity. And so essentially, there is a lot of natural turn in the atmosphere right now with this low pressure system so close by. Now, the good news is this low is going to scoot off to the east over the next few hours, and that takes away that natural turning of that natural rotation in the atmosphere. So we'll get that out of the way here pretty soon. And then we just have to wait for this front to cross. And in the meantime, we'll have rounds of scattered showers and maybe a few rumbles, but we're not expecting any severe weather here once we get after dark here tonight. So that's the good news, but in the short term, we have that risk for severe weather, and that's what we're having to deal with here right now in our region, and that's what has been the problem here in the short term. So again, let's go back up to that storm. We'll pause this here for a moment and take a look at what's going on. If I can get, there it goes, hand tracker. Sometimes that thing does have a case of the Mondays, but there is that thunderstorm that's now kind of deviating a bit and scooting down more to the south and east. Let's look at some of the areas of rotation. Let's see if we've got a lot of rotation with this storm here as it starts to approach Nicholas County. So this is good news. We're seeing a lot less in the way of rotation with this thunderstorm across parts of Clay and Nicholas County. So again, there's why we're cutting in, because it breaks into portions of Nicholas County. But this is the area that we've been watching here for the potential for some rotation, and we put this into motion here. That's where briefly that rotation was very strong. So I'm very familiar with this area because I grew up not too far from this area. But again, scooting down to the south and east, crossing Route 16 rather quickly. So that's 16 right here, that little squiggly line. So you're talking about Holcomb Hill, for example, over toward Bickmore. There's Fola there where the old mine's at. Farther down toward Indore. This is kind of scooting right toward the Bickmore area, but it's weakening it, at least at this point, as it continues to do so. So that's great to see, but we can also, of course, check the reflectivity. And again, there goes that storm. So notice that the area of rotation is not lining up well with where the heaviest rain is showing up here. So the structure of the storm is beginning to fall apart as it scoots down to the south and east. So this severe thunderstorm warning goes until 7:45 this evening. And at least at this point, unless we see some strengthening taking place once again, I would expect this warning to probably be allowed to expire early. So we're going to stay on here until that warning is gone, but at least in the short term, it looks like we're seeing a lot of weakening with this storm as it does move toward Nicholas County. The Nicholas County border is right here, so you can see that by the black line. Of course, you got Eagle and Crestmont, the old logging towns up to the north. And then, of course, you've got Summersville and Kirkwood and over toward Hookersville and Muddlety there along Route 19, eventually up toward Birch River, which is right here. So all these towns kind of keeping a close eye on this storm as it approaches from the west, kind of moving to the south and to the east. So again, folks in Clay, for example, are in the clear. But now we wait and see what this storm does as it pushes its way into Nicholas County. So in the meantime, while we await that, let's take a look at the setup here for this evening. So if we could switch over to Links 2. There we go. Again, a slight risk for severe weather as we work our way through tonight. So what do we mean by a slight risk for severe weather? That is a level 2 risk for severe weather in our region. And basically what that means is we're going to have a few scattered showers and thunderstorms that we can expect to become strong to severe. We've already seen that here this afternoon. We've had quite a few storm reports, especially into portions of the Greenbrier Valley. And so I think our window of opportunity is starting to kind of close with that over the next hour or so. But still, we could have some damaging wind gusts. And again, the tornado threat, not really that high today overall. There is that low-level spinning taking place, but mostly around 1%. So that doesn't even make the graphic here. But the damaging wind threat, that's the big one that we've been keeping a close eye on, and that's where we do have that higher threat taking place. A little bit of a hail threat farther off to the east. We have not had any reports of a tornado on the ground, and we have not had any reports of hail today, but we have had quite a bit in the way of damaging wind gust reports from those storms earlier this afternoon, again, especially over into the Greenbrier Valley. So again, this is kind of a more regional look, and the better threat for tornadoes this afternoon was actually farther up to the north and east, and there have been some tornado warnings as a result of a warm front that's lifting up to the north. That warm front, when we have warm fronts during the afternoon this time of year like that, usually kind of the focus point for severe weather, and again, that was farther up to the north and to the east. There is that warm front that's continuing to lift up into portions of Pennsylvania and New York. Now we just wait this cold front out, and that will cross here as we head toward around midnight or so tonight. So if we do have any additional tornado warnings here this evening, it's very important that you know where to go, right? It might seem like common sense, but when you have a big-time situation happen in a moment's notice, whether it's flooding or whether it's severe weather of any type, it's always important to know where to go. So if you have a basement, you head down to the basement. But some of us, myself included, we don't have basements. So that's where you go to a spot in the middle of your home, preferably with no windows. You really don't want to utilize the windows because if those get busted out, A, you may have some issues with the wind itself, but of course you have the issues with glass, right? We don't want to have to deal with that. So again, preferably maybe like a bathroom or a good old closet, something like that. That's what's really going to be helpful here. So for folks in western Nicholas County, especially near 20 Mile Creek, that's what we're going to want to think about doing here as we head into this evening, at least in the short term over the next 15 to 20 minutes. 200 power outages in Raleigh County as far as the number of customers, so we're not looking at anything too bad there. And mostly has been pretty limited in terms of those power outages so far. But if we could, Bree, let's switch back over to Links 1, and let's look at the latest here with that tornado warning. So the National Weather Service has opted to continue the tornado warning for now, so we'll stay on here for about another 10 minutes until this is allowed to expire or until this is extended. But at this point, still being allowed to continue. The interesting thing, actually, I take that back. It looks like it has been shrunk. So yes, it has been shrunk. But we're watching. Let's see if we've got any additional rotations here. And as we look, yeah, so it looks like the rotation continuing to be mitigated with this particular cell here across portions of Clay County. The National Weather Service looking like they're indicating that this is a storm that is continuing to weaken. So they've actually detracted the tornado warning portion in our region. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and return back to our regularly scheduled broadcast. If we do have any additional tornado warnings, though, we'll be sure to keep you updated. We'll break back into coverage. And, of course, if you do have any alerts or anything like that, and you're wanting to check out that information, we do have that available over on our Facebook page, Storm Tracker 59. And, of course, we're keeping you updated on our website at WVNSTV.com. But for now, let's return to your regularly scheduled broadcast here this evening.